Share my screen. Okay. So today we are going to, I'm going to show you how to move a patient over.
Okay.
And then how to identify. All right. So we're going to search for a patient in Framework. So what would be the first thing? Logging in. Let's kind of go over that one more time.
Mhm.
So again, this is, you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So this is your ECM, paperless. This
Mhm.
is your Framework, which is your dispensing. Are you able to see your icons yet when you log into Citrix?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And have you tried to log in yet?
Yes.
Perfect. So you've got everything?
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. I did check everybody's access for Taunton, but I just want to make sure there's no
Mhm.
hiccups. Okay, so I am going to change pharmacy here. And this is on site. Sorry. Let me change to remote. This one, I was already there. Okay. So we get an order in.
Mhm.
And the first thing that we would want to do is find our patient. Identify if our patient's in the 400, right? Just like we would with SCS. Identify that our patient is in Framework, just like we would with SCS in the 400. So
Okay.
how I would do that is I would come to find patient. Now, when we set up your ribbon, I haven't set my ribbon up yet and I need to do that. It will be on your main screen here.
Okay.
And so it's also under utilities. So if I went to utilities here at the top in gray, I
Mhm.
would find patient here. I could hit my Alt key and I could do Alt T for utilities and then just F for find patient and it'll pull that up. So if you're not a person that likes to handle your mouse and you like your Alt keys, just hit that Alt key one time and it'll show you where to go and then you'll start knowing which ones to use. I'm kind of back and forth kind of person because of
Mhm.
SCS is
Mhm.
so mouse driven, you know,
Yes.
but there are certain keys that I'm 100% a quick key person and I will show you why. So we're going to look for a patient and if I just kind of move this down, we see that it's Richard resident. So my last name, and then I could do some of my first name and I can just hit enter. Or notice that my S is underlined, I could do Alt S. So I hit my function key and I spelled the name wrong, Richard. So he's there, but let's pretend he wasn't. If he wasn't, I would get this, none found.
Mhm.
So I would go to the 400 next. So now there's a couple of ways, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't do any, do you do 400 billing, right? The bill only is for
Yes.
acute billing? Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
So that's great. So when you search for a patient though, you probably would do 714, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So 7 and 14 will get you to search patient. And what you're going to see is this 3, FrameworkLTC. This is what's going to
Oh,
push your
okay.
patient over. Yeah. And
Okay.
you won't see that till probably a week of training. It should
Okay.
happen like towards the end of the week.
Okay.
But what we want to do is, just like SCS, we need to verify a couple of key things. So with SCS, we need to make sure the patient's active. So you can clearly see that here on the screen, and
Mhm.
that they have an active financial plan.
Okay.
So if they were active and the financial plan was blank, we would need insurance updated.
Okay.
The other thing is, I'm going to do a 1 here, is we have to have a valid nursing station. It cannot be HSTAT. So
Okay.
yeah, and if you have an HSTAT patient, I don't know if you've ever like searched in for a residence station before, but you can just put a question mark here and hit
Yes.
enter.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. And then you just have to choose a valid one, which we probably would look at our order and see if it's there. If not, we're going to call our facility. But if you try to push your patient in without verifying first and it's HSTAT, your patient will not push over to Framework.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Just be
The
aware that that's a reason that it will push over. Okay.
Exactly. That's right.
Okay.
The other thing that I do is I just hit enter one time, which we should be doing with SCS today, but what is my allergies? And is there anything updated on my orders that could potentially not be here? So there are a few key pieces that will push into Framework for us. Pretty much everything on this screen, including the medical record screen, except for doctor. So doctor, just like SCS, we have to add it ourselves.
Okay.
I'm going to hit enter. Our allergies will pull over. If it's no known allergies, that will as well. Enter one more time. If I have a diagnosis, my diagnoses are going to push in as well. And now I'm going to go to the hierarchy screen. So as soon as my insurance is going to push over as well. So your PMCs, your PDMs, when we get to insurance and Framework, they're going to be red. Everything else is commercial or insurance. So Medicaid, your Med Ds, those will all be black, and you'll know what I mean when we get there. But I try to point that out because if we're billing facility, we need to look at facility notes. I think I mentioned yesterday, we don't need cheat sheets from plan admin anymore. So our team actually puts the facility contracted notes, and you'll be able to see that right when you get into order entry here in Framework.
Oh,
So
perfect.
yeah, it's pretty nice. So now we're going to come over, and it does take a couple minutes for your patient to push in. The longest part is the insurance. And on this screen, let's talk about this screen for a minute. We can hide inactive and only look for active residents. And then let's go back here. Okay, so here's our patient. I showed you a little bit about scrolling over and being able to see the external ID. So if I come back here to the 400, you see 24493, which is your resident number. And then your facility is 079. And as soon as I choose, here is my facility number right here. So 22S079, the last three digits or the last three numbers will always match the 400. So we talked about that yesterday. When I logged in, I just willy-nilly chose a facility. So if you see up here at gray, in the gray, 22S124. As soon as I go into this patient's profile, it's going to flip me to that facility. I could also just say change to this facility. So if I click that, it brings me right to that facility. Yeah, it's nice.
You don't have to back out and change it and then come back in.
Exactly. Yeah. And Eric, I think I mentioned yesterday, there's a couple of things that you have to be in the facility for. One of them is doing refills, the other one's doing a price quote. So when I go to this patient's profile, so we want to verify that everything pushed in correctly. So I can click open patient profile, or I can do an Alt P. So I'm going to click that. Okay. So this is your patient's profile. So the first thing I'm going to start with is this patient profile needs to be reviewed. It's red. There's a check mark. Whenever you get into order entry, and when you get into order entry, you could click this new RX button over here, which we'll get more into tomorrow. But when you get into order entry and you go to fill an order, a pop-up box is going to come up and it's going to say patient has been added by an external source or something like that. It just means the patient's been pushed in from the 400. It hasn't been manually added in Framework. This is where that comes from. Now you could uncheck that if you want, so you're not constantly seeing it. However, if a new order gets filled in the 400 or anything changes on the patient's profile on the 400, it's going to update Framework and it's going to check mark the box again. So you kind of would be battling it, you know. So pulled in your nurse's station, patient sex, date of birth, your care level. Again, it didn't do the physician. If I wanted to add the doctor, I could just hit edit. and add the doctor right here. So if I just start typing Brick and I hit tab, it will put in the doctor's name. So if it had similar, it would have popped up a box and then I would have to choose. This little dude next to the doctor is the doctor's profile. So you're literally going to be looking at the address and stuff for that specific doctor.
Oh.
And here it is here. And I'm going to get off of here and I'll just save this. Now, notice this little undo button right here, Alt U. I have been in order entry and went to click the save button and clicked undo by accident, and it erased everything that I did. So this is where Betty is an Alt S save person. I do not click that disk anymore. So here's your pencil. If you just hover, Alt E edit, Alt S save, Alt U undo.
Okay.
And then you've got your little ECM button here. This is where you can associate. So I could associate at a resident level. Again, if I have my ECM open, maybe I need to clarify information. I don't want people to have to keep clicking on this document. So I'm going to click associate, and it'll associate on a resident level. So it'll put the resident's name. So if I come back here, here is my association for that specific resident file.
Okay.
All right, so we'll come back and look at these different buttons, but that's how you can associate. Now, if I associated to the wrong document, I come over here to this light blue and I right click and I can say delete associated group. Yes, I'm sure, and it will go away.
Okay.
So that's how you unassociate. So getting back here, I added my doctor. You don't have to, but I do. And then you can go to notices. Notices visually is going to show you if the allergy came over correctly or not. So
Okay.
what is this doing? It's mad. Okay. So I click notices and I can tell if my allergy came into drug allergies. If for some reason Medispan doesn't have my allergy code, because all allergies have its own specific number or code, if you will, if it's not in Medispan, or if it's put in, perfect example, when you're in the 400 and you go to allergies, let me just open this up. You can add ingredient for an allergy. If that product is not in Framework, it's not going to capture it and it'll put it down here into other.
Oh, okay.
If there's anything in other, you are not going to get a clinical check. So
because there's nothing associated to it.
Exactly. It has to be in this box. So two things. I'm going to Alt E, or I'm going to click my pencil. I can actually type here. I could have wiped that out. I can type penicillin here. If I type something, it will not do a clinical check. I have to click at drug allergies. My G is underlined. I could do Alt G or just click the button. So here's my penicillin allergy. So again, I have a pencil to edit. So anytime I'm editing, it's always going to be a pencil. If I'm adding something new, it's always going to be the green plus sign. So if I hit edit and I can say, this is my allergy, I could go to drug. So if I'm in class, I could type in no, and no known drug allergies will come up. And then if I can't find it, I could narrow it down by drug. And then here's my save, or Alt S. And then I'm just going to say quit. It's going to say, hey, do you want me to update the medical records for you? Yes, I do. And so it just put it back for me. But again, if I type or if this is blank, we will not have any clinical checks. Now, just like the 400, if I don't have if I don't have an allergy or at least no known allergies and I'm in order entry, the 400 will yell at me and say, you need an allergy added. Framework will do the same thing.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So we will go over that when we're training. And then for initial review for the pharmacists, one of the things that I train them to do when it's a new order is to come right to the patient's screen and look at this notices tab. Was this updated? Just so that they're behind you looking and making sure that was completed correctly.
Okay.
So the last thing is your audit log. Your audit log is going to tell you if your insurance came over. So if I scroll down, I'm looking for MOP or method of payment. As soon as you see that, you know you can start entering orders. And this is the last piece that comes in. And notice we've got other things here. So these are the drugs that were filled in the 400. These are also going to push in to Framework as well as our orders going over there. So that way both systems have clean clinical checks. Supplies won't cross on either end. It's only drug.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other nice thing that I love is now you can see who did what. So what I mean by that is Fernita filled an order. It was dextrose on 5/11 and it was dispensed. I can see that she did that. If an order was deleted, you'd be able to see who deleted it. Here's RX deleted from batch. So this is us cleaning the system back up. So it'll show you who deleted it, when it got deleted. If there was an edit, if there was something done to that order, it'll show you. So it's really nice because now you've got accountability and you've got better tracking.
I like that.
Yeah, I do. I'm a huge fan. Okay, so again, let's just kind of recap. We found our patient. We pushed our patient in from the 400. We're here. We went to patient profile. We are going straight to notices. Do we have allergies here? Is there anything here that we need to add? If we did, I would be going to drug allergies and adding them. And then the last piece is audit. Your audit log, MOP, method of payment. All right, I'm good. I can start adding some orders for this patient. I'm going to hit close. And then, of course, adding your doctor. So the other thing before we get over to ECM and looking at those buttons is open patient order list. This is going to show you anything that has been filled for this patient, 400 and Framework. You can sort these columns. So if I click, I say click it so that all of the LTC400 stuff go to the bottom. When I'm on site and we start training on refills, I do the same thing. I want to see all my Framework stuff. So throw everything else down there. You're going to see batch, RO, reorder, or history. That means we can refill this order. If it has today's date or yesterday's date and it's white, that means the batch never got posted or there's orders already in here for this patient today entered. So this is how you could find out.
Okay.
And then what got sent. Now we've got reorder number, RX number. So Framework works on reordering. We have skilled facilities, so we don't really need a refill number, right? That's good for a year. So we call it a reorder. And what that means to us is the reorder number is going to stay the same. The RX number will be different. So if we look at this dextrose order and I do fill history, I would be able to see how many times it's been filled. So let me go back out of here. I can cut from here as well, which is just DCing the order. I can do a reorder refill because I'm at a reorder stage. If it was in an open batch, this would be grayed out and so would your cut.
Okay.
And then go to reorder. So again, fill history will just kind of show you how many times it's been filled. And then if I say active orders only, it'll hide anything DC'd. If I'm specifically looking for something, I could type dextrose. It brings me right to that and highlights it. If I hit enter, it'll pull it up for me so that I can actually view the order. So you'll notice tomorrow, right now, everything is over on the left. When you're in order entry, you're going to see the SIG on the left and your quantities are on the right. this is an order that has already been posted and shipped. And it even tells you down here when it was originally done, last filled. So if I get out of here, any questions about this right now so far?
Looks good.
Okay, great. Your cut date, so that's your DC date. And there's some stuff hidden here. Okay, profile. So if it was a profiled only, and anything coming over from the 400 will always be marked profile. I'm not sending it out the door, I'm just profiling it. That these will be checked. So if it's not marked as profile, that means we sent it out the door. Last dispense date, how many days supply, my drug name, and then my SIG. And if I keep going over, my financial plan.
I don't have to go like into the actual order to view all that information.
I
Like it's quicker,
know.
you can see it from here.
It's pretty great. Yeah. You can see who got billed, your doctor. So all that's kind of there, which is nice. Okay. So let me just go back here. All right, I'm going to go back to the 400 for a minute. So when we're filling orders today in SCS, everything goes to point of sale and it adjudicates and it bills. All of our adjudication is now going to stay in Framework. But when we fill an order, because we want clean clinical checks, those orders will come over to the 400. And in order to see that, instead of going to 714, I'm going to go to 10 for order entry. I'm just going to page down. 21, patient RX profile. So you can also push your patient in from here. So 1021, and then I can look at my resident. So here, notice I have a 3. I'm going to do a 1 to select. And this just shows me as if I was in point of sale and I did a 9, it would bring you into the patient profile of what was sent, same visual.
Okay.
Our SCS orders come over as a 9 million number with a 0.00. With Framework, it's going to have a 10 for the main drug. If it was a compound, I'm going to hit F10 and let's see if there's anything here. So here I have a cefepime. If it was mixed with sodium chloride, I would also have the sodium chloride. It would be exactly the same number, but the last 2 digits would be 11.
Oh, okay.
SCS, yeah. So SCS comes over with a D. Ours will come over with an L as a label only. And you can do a 4 still on these and look at directions. So you could look at the SIG and what was dispensed. It's kind of great for both systems.
Very great.
Yeah, it'll give you the DC date. If an order gets cut in the 400, it will actually push that cut over to Framework. And then same as us. So if we DC an order in Framework, it will cut it in the 400 as well. So the only thing that we don't do ever is discharge our patient in Framework. And I think I talked about that yesterday because we want to keep the system updating. And if we discharge the patient in Framework, we won't get those continual updates in the 400. So if the patient comes back on therapy, our insurance might not be updated. There might be products that were filled in the 400 that are not going to have a clean clinical check anymore. So the only thing that we do, I'm going to go back here to the order list, is cut our orders. So we'll discontinue our orders, but never the patient. Okay. Now, what if I filled an order and I don't see it here? 2 things will make that happen. The first one is the product is not in the 400. So today we're used to making sure that the product is in the 400 before we dispense it in SCS. Same thing here. If we get a new product in and we're adding a new product to Framework, we have to make sure that it's in the 400 as well, or it'll fall to the landing pad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The other thing that's different is with Framework, we dispense box NDC, not vial. So when you're adding a new product, you're adding that box NDC. Sometimes they're the same, but because a lot
Okay,
of our,
so
sorry, you go.
okay, so
Go
we're
ahead.
just putting the one that's on the actual sleeve or the box rather than the individual vials.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of that has to do with billing third party. We get a lot of rejections that they want the outer NDC and not the inner NDC. So
Okay.
we're always going to use the outer,
Okay.
and that should eliminate those rejections. Also, the mapping of the barcodes are all built into the box NDC. So even though you're scanning the vial, it's going to work because all of the barcodes for that product are built into that outer NDC number.
Ah, okay. So that's why they prefer that one. Okay.
Yes, yes. Because if you build a compound, and you'll know what I'm talking about when we get there, but if you build a compound with an NDC of the vial and you go to scan the box, it's not going to work, which you
Mm,
typically wouldn't, but you know, you
yeah.
got to use the box one. Yeah.
Okay.
The
Just to
other
make life
thing,
easier.
exactly, yes. So the other thing that will cause your order to not come to the patient's profile is your doctor. So again, just like SES, right? The doctor has
Mm-hmm.
to be in the 400. So if you're adding a doctor in Framework, you're going to need the NPI number. I know we have NPI lookup tool, but what you can do is come to the 400, make sure the doctor's there, get the NPI from there. So you got a twofold type of situation where you can do that. And so if I just do 7 and 2, and we'll just do Brickman. Just taking a second. Okay. So right here, if you see green, you know your
Mm-hmm.
doctor's added to the 400. If it's a doctor, well, so that was Adam. If it's Alan, Alan doesn't have any green, which means he's not even added to the 400. So we would have to
Oh,
select him to add him first. You have to see 4-digit number here.
okay.
And then here is your NPI. So you're kind of double checking and getting your NPI all at the same time.
Okay.
All right. So that's how you identify that. Okay. And then let's see. We talked about allergies. I did not talk about standing orders. So I'm going to come back here to the patient's profile. Again, I'm just going to come back here to open patient profile. We have standing drug orders. So think of your standing drug orders as your supply template in SCS. So in SCS, we have a template set up and we say, all right, these are the main items that we typically will send out the door. So they're in your master template. That's what your standing drug orders is. It's your master template of supplies that you typically send out with orders, whether it's a PICC line or a peripheral line. And so I'm going to need to get those supplies from you so that I can set up your standing orders. And if they're different for different facilities, we can set up different ones. You'll just have to let me know that. But
Oh, perfect. Actually, that was one of Antonisa's questions yesterday,
okay,
because we have certain facilities that require like extra supplies or things that like they request. Like sometimes they want extra tubing, like instead of just having tubing for um, each medication, however many times a day, like they want it for like every single time they change it, like they want additional ones. And
okay,
it's nice to have that already set up in the system instead of having to remember, okay, I'm sending it out to this facility and having to double check our notes to make sure we're sending all the supplies that they want.
right, right, okay. So what you'll do here is you'll just choose, what do I want to go out the door? We
Mhm.
do the pump, and then as you're refilling your drug, you're going to refill your pump. You're going to change your pump to a bill only, but of course you need to dispense it on the first time. But we
Mhm.
don't do bulk billing If I remember correctly, you guys just refill the pump as you go with the order anyway, right? You don't do a pump
Mhm.
full day. Okay. All right, good.
Mhm.
So you have to say what batch does it want to go to. So I would create a batch for today, and it would
Mhm.
be 0823. Always 4 numbers, always month and day. And then it's always going to say daily batch, so that if you need to see where you are in your stage, so maybe you want to look at delivery times, you can say, okay, 0805 or 0815, let me look at my 11 p.m. route. What do I've got out there? So you can narrow it down. But if your batch ID isn't consistently the same, so no slashes, no dashes, no no 08-15, you want it to just be 0815 or 0823,
Mhm.
and then daily batch. And so we just do daily batch because there could be a billing department in there, and they could be doing retro claims or fixing stuff, or working on a prior authorization. They would have different batch names out there. So this just identifies that this is the pharmacy's batch.
Okay.
Okay. So that's what your batches will kind of look like. And then you would have to say, uncheck, I don't want to profile you only, I want you to go out the door. And I would want you to automatically associate to my document. So that is your batches. So your standing orders. So when we're in order entry, you're going to be able to get right to this screen from order entry. And I'll show you what that looks like. So here, I'm just going to hit quit. Okay. And so I could go right here to new RX. And here is an old batch, but I would want to do a new batch. So I would say new 0823 daily batch. And remember, this batch is for this facility. So a
Okay.
little bit different from the 400. Your batches are
Mhm.
facility specific. So that means if I go to fill an order for another patient at a different facility and I haven't opened a batch for them yet, I'm going to have to open up a batch for them as well.
Okay.
So now I would just hit create right here, and it automatically highlights it. So I'm just going to hit OK. And it's going to get me into the batch. The very first time you get into order entry, this disclaimer will come up. It's just your HIPAA. You're going to accept it. And so because I said new RX for Richard, here's my box that I was talking about with the red on the patient profile. The
Okay.
patient has been accepted from an external system. It just means you pulled me in from the 400. Are you sure
Mhm.
you want to enter a prescription? Yes, I'm sure. So I could do Alt-Y or click my yes.
Okay.
Here is my resident. So now you've got little play buttons. This little play button next to your patient is going to bring you to your patient's profile. And
Oh,
then you could
nice.
come right down here and do standing orders. Yeah. Now, the reason why I put my doctor in, standing orders is is if you don't put a doctor here, is going to add LTC400 doctor, and you'll have to edit your doctor for your supplies.
Oh, okay.
It actually drives me nuts. So I add my doctor so that when I go to do
Yeah,
standing orders, I don't have to worry about it.
I agree.
Yeah. Now that being said, if your doctor changes, for a new order, then obviously you would have to change that doctor, but that doesn't really happen that often for IV. But,
Mhm.
you just would want to be aware of that. But for
Okay.
me, I would rather be aware of that than have to edit 3 or 4 orders with the doctor.
Mm. Agreed.
But it's what you want. I give you the tools, you do what you want with them. So here, I was talking a little bit about facility build. You're going to see red. Red means I'm billing Med A, managed, or VA. This is my batch. It gives me my name here. So not only can you see what facility you're in up here at the top in gray, when you get into a batch, in case there was another batch open, did I pick the right batch? Yes, I did. I
Mhm.
can see it right here. So then what is my insurance? Before I even start entering anything, I am gearing my eyes in here because I need to know if I have to look at my facility notes. If it's red, Med A managed VA, your billing facility, you have to look at your notes. Insurance, all your payment plans will be black. You don't even have to look at it. So we'll get more into this tomorrow, but the nice thing is you don't need cheat sheets anymore. An assistant, this is going to tell you exactly what you need to know. Yeah,
Excellent.
it's pretty great. All right, so up here is your ECM button, just like in the patient profile. You can, or the system will ask you automatically, do you want to associate, just like the 400 and DocuTrack does, and then you can create a form right from here. I like creating the form from Framework because the system will grab the patient's name, it'll grab the order, the SIG, even if you're creating an equipment pickup form. I love the equipment pickup forms. I like ECM as far as doing a reminder to pick up our pumps, which I'll show you that when I'm on site for training.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
I love it. And having the kit billing folder was a big thing for me, and I was so happy when that got approved. But these are your notes. I'm just going to come out of here. You want to save changes to this record? Nope, get me out. So that was as simple as it was to just get out of there. Now, the reason why I did that was because we're back here. So let's pretend we filled these orders and I said, yes, I want you to associate. So we filled the dextrose. If I click this little blue guy, it shows me my RX number, my patient name. You can move this stuff around to be able to see more real estate. You can move this stuff around. You can grab this. So that way, you know, you can kind of see. Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
I can click this E. So if I hover, RX entry, review, final review, facility, patient. So if I click this E right from this document and I go back to Framework, it's going to pull up my order for me. So here's my order. Yeah. So if you got out and you thought to yourself, oh man, you know, I sent 3 days, there's Saturdays, Sundays coming up, maybe I should change that. You hit that E, it'll open the order entry screen back up for you, click your pencil and edit. So the only time you would actually have to reverse is if you were billing insurance, and we'll get into that tomorrow.
Okay.
But it's kind of nice because ECM will take you right to that order. If you needed to go to the patient's profile, you could click PA. It'll bring you right to the patient's profile. I'm going to come back. Here's my patient's profile.
Excellent.
Yeah. I showed you right clicking and deleting an association. If I hit this blue, this little box again. So now custom properties is my refill date. So I would want to set a refill so that when I hit complete, it's automatically going to move it into my IV charts when everything is done. But that's going to be huge. I do use the message field and type in the next refill date there too, so that visually I can see, you know, when the next refill is. And then
so is this going to be like, now we don't have to print those like IV boards out because we'll see the next time we, oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love it.
I mean, I don't want to say you don't have to. So ECM goes down.
If we don't want to, because I feel like,
yeah,
like why waste the paper if I can just see it in there?
right. Exactly. So, yeah, you could still keep your refill board like you guys have, but it's all going to be here as well. So if you go to IV charts, all your patients will be here. And if you have messages, you could put the dates, you can click on it and it'll sort it by date for you. So again, if I just kind of do that.
And I feel like this way we can put a bit longer of a note, whereas on the printed one, we have such a small limited space to put a note in.
Yeah, that's
Sometimes
so true.
sometimes we can't put, everything we need to put in there. So I feel like this would be more efficient.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you, we talked a little bit about why things wouldn't come to the patient's profile. So I'm probably going to have to work with order entry a little bit, but what happens if I go to my patient, if I go to 10 and 21, I'm just going to pull somebody up, doesn't even matter. And their order's not here. So I should have a 9 million number. If I hit F3, and instead of 21, I go to 10 and 25, 1025 is going to bring me to the landing pad.
Okay.
So here I would want to look and say, okay, I filled an order. I want to say, if I put a W here, Weezer, you can type in the facility name. If you know the number, you can tab over and type in the number. If you do a 1 to select and you hit enter, it shows you orders that are sitting in the landing pad. So this one right here is a dextrose. Your error is always going to be a D or an O. Your D is your doctor, your O is your order or your NDC number. So
Okay.
Shift F2 will expand your view just like in point of sale. So I did Shift F2 and I expanded my view and I can see I don't have, so look at this doctor here. I've got my 4-digit code with my doctor's name. I have an NDC with a product. This one up here has no 4-digit code and no NDC, which is why my error here is D and O, because my doctor's not in the system, my NDC was not in the system. So your IV order is going to fall to the landing pad. These have to be processed. So what you would do is you would add your doctor. You can do a GPI equivalent NDC, but you would end up wanting to add your NDC anyway, because if you fill anything else, it's just going to fall in here. I would suggest adding your doctor, adding your NDC, coming back to the landing pad. You would do a 9 to process. You would hit enter. It's going to make you choose. So here now I need to choose my doctor, which is why I wanted to add my doctor first. And then it's going to make me choose a product. So if I choose this doctor, now it's going to say, okay, now pick your product. What product did you use? So now again, if I do a 1 here, box is just going to go blank and notice it's gone. So it doesn't even bring you into order entry. It will just let you pick your doctor or pick your product depending on what's wrong, and then it'll just disappear. So what happened to it? If I come back, shoot, who is it for? I think it was for Kyle. I go back to 21. Cycle. There it is. There's your dextrose order. So now pushed it back in, pushed it in for us. It just put it right into the patient's profile.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it looks like, oh, wait a minute, what happened? Where did it go? But it literally just pushed it to the profile where it belonged.
Okay.
Yeah, which we'll go through that again when we're on site, but I'll have to work with order entries as well. But if we make sure that our product is in the 400 and our doctor is in the 400, you will never have to go to the landing pad. And so you'll hear me say that time and time again during training, because I don't want you to have to go to the landing pad. I don't want you to have to do extra work. Yeah.
Prevention is the best medicine.
Yes, it absolutely is. I think that's it for the day, for today. Did you have any questions? Is there anything that you want to look at since it's just you and I?
I don't think I had any questions yet.
Okay. All right. Well, if you think of anything, let me know. And I'm going to stop recording. Oh. Stop. Okay.